The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 217.
Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. Well, hello friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have a phenomenal woman on today. She is a performance artist, a writer, and a comedian, so I'm really glad to have her on and share her story. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Kristina Wong. Kristina, how are you doing today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, I'm known for one-person shows that I've toured around the country, some in Canada and in the UK. Some of the shows I've toured include a show called Wong Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and that's a show exploring the high rates of depression and suicide among Asian American women, and not at the expense of those women. It is a comedy. I am currently touring a show called the Wong Street Journal, which is about the month that I spent in Gulu, northern Uganda, where I was volunteering with a microloan organization and by accident ended up making a rap album with local rappers that became a hit rap album. But it also explores privilege and what it means to be marginalized as an Asian American in America and then show up in Uganda in Africa and be the face of privilege, colonialism, and power. People from way back might remember me from a website I did called bigbadchinesemama.com, which was a fake mail order bride website. I have a ton of other things I've done, clips that have gone viral on YouTube. I've been on the nightly show on Comedy Central and late night. Other late night shows like, what was it? What was it called? Totally Biased with W. Kamau Bell. And I've done some TV stuff too. But that's my entire life in a few sentences.
Awesome. And it sounds like you've been, a busy, busy woman. I mean, I'm going to try and see if you still have that old website. I want to check that out.
It is still up. Yeah. It's, I don't even think people use the internet to check websites anymore. I feel like it's all Twitter and Facebook, but if you feel like some long form reading, go ahead, check out bigbadchinesemama.com.
Sounds good. And Kristina, what's your cultural background?
I was born in San Francisco. My parents were also born in San Francisco, and my grandparents were immigrants from China.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
Fuck it. What do I have to lose?
I love it, right? Because a lot of us, especially like Asian women, we like worry to the point of like,
oh yeah,
no return pretty much. And, I've been guilty of it. And it's like we worry about the smallest little things and things that haven't happened yet. So,
Oh yeah, I was raised by worriers and worry, and by an ethos of like, I think so much of why my career essentially now is I humiliate myself for a living. I tell embarrassing stories about myself. I get dressed in horrifying costumes. It's self-deprecation is my big moneymaker. And I think a lot of it is so much a reaction to being raised in a household where I was always taught to like freak out, worry about how everyone saw me. Oh my God. And it wasn't just my parents. I felt like I grew up in San Francisco around a lot of Chinese Americans, and it was always like this panic that everyone was looking at us funny. And middle school was like the worst. It was like, what am I wearing? Oh my God. And the only way to kind of overcome it was to find other people to pick on, which is not healthy, right? And at the end of the day, you have to live with your life and what gives you joy. And when you're not in middle school anymore, you can hopefully have a little bit more freedom to embrace your weird freak side and be like, this is actually what if I run after this would make me the most happy. Because I just think that right now we live in a day and age where too many people are distracted. So if you are humiliating yourself, people just don't pay attention. They just have 100 other things to make fun of.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And, Kristina, what would be your definition of self-confidence?
I think being able to just to go into a situation that is terrifying and where you could possibly be judged and not care about that judgment, because it's you and what you leave with at the end of the day. And I do that all the time. I literally stand in front of audiences, especially when I was doing Wong Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and telling some very vulnerable stories that were fictionalized, but were essentially a lot about growing up being depressed and having nobody to talk to. And I think especially with the issue around depression in Asian American communities, I very much was raised like, you don't let anybody know anything's going wrong, even if it's terribly going wrong, or even not really going wrong. You just don't ride under the radar, right? And so the fact that I actually stand in front of people that I can see, they're alive. This is not like behind a screen and they can watch me and I can see them react. It is terrifying, but I think that's a lot of what drove me to do what I do, because I just felt like I'm tired of living scared of what people think. And I hate the idea that the only way to please people is to be invisible. And I can't stand for that. I'm not an invisible person. I want to be seen. I want to live out loud, and that's how I roll.
I love it. And, it's great that you are, that the type of person who's going out there and doing what they love, regardless of what anyone thinks, because we live in a world, like you said, where we just worry too much about what other people think. And, knowing that we can't please everybody is probably the most freeing thing you can ever do, because then you can just do whatever the hell you want, and, the right people will come into your life. So,
yeah, very true.
So, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
I think I still am. I'm still discovering self-confidence. I still find myself battling with issues of fear, or I'm scared of doing this. I definitely do feel like I was very fearful, and it was hard to enjoy life. It was hard to just sit in a situation. I mean, I have a whole sort of self-confidence journey, even as being a solo performer. It's not like I just started to do shows and was like, I'm confident. Like, I think for a long time I did it because I wanted approval. But as it turns out, people don't really go to theater, and not the world at large. And when the show's over, even if they love the show, they go home and I have to return back to my life and my life off stage. I have to be happy with myself there too. So I think a lot of this journey has to do with, like, how do I accept myself both with accolades and without accolades? And now Facebook has sort of turned us all into performers, where we report our life, or we report the meals we've eaten, and we collect likes and stuff. And I really feel like the journey to self-confidence is like, can you live in a world without people liking and commenting on your life in an approving way and still feel satisfied and happy? I mean, this is more of a commentary about what the world is like now. But yeah, I do feel like so much of the journey before all that was constantly seeking approval from other people. But at the end of the day, I don't go home with them. Maybe I do, but like, but I don't go home with all of them. But, like I have to be able to live with myself and know that, without anybody there, while their approval and their encouragement is helpful, I have to be okay with what I am and what I've done.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And I know that's a lot of what especially Asian women, deal with, that seeking approval and always trying to please others, even if it means, putting other people's happiness instead of theirs. And, that's why so many people out there feel like they're trapped, or they don't know who they are. And, I'm glad you're able to learn to ask the right questions so you can seek the right answers. Like, asking yourself, how do I accept myself? How do I accept these situations? And, with that realization, what's your life been like now?
I remember in my 20s, I so envied people who were traveling, and I remember I thought that an ideal situation would be to meet a partner who would just plan trips around the world that I could just come along with. And because I was just so terrified with the idea of how do you plan a trip, and how can you go travel the world alone? And at a certain point in my 30s, I was like, wait, no one's coming. And this is not because I've done something wrong or that I'm a loser and can't get anybody. It's just that's how the cards unfolded for me. And so I need to just do. And I remember a friend of mine said, I'll come with you. And then she's like, oh, well, I can't now because me and Ed are trying to get pregnant. Her and her husband were trying to get pregnant. I was just like, oh my God, what have I done? I can't wait. I can't wait on anybody or seek. So I just got to go. And I did a trip by myself for 6 weeks in Southeast Asia. It was the most terrifying thing. It was mostly terrifying to my parents, who were convinced I was going to be killed. And they were like, the first couple of weeks were hard. I lost my credit card and my debit bank card. I don't even know where it went. They weren't stolen. But I think I left one in a machine and one at the airport. And my parents were like, come back. And I was so scared. I was scared that I didn't have what it takes to travel alone. And it especially was not encouraging when your own parents tell you, you're there alone, come back. And it took till the third week for me to just take a breath and really enjoy that I had pulled this off. I had got flown there alone, and I'd given myself this treat, and everything was really beautiful out there. And I just remember I was in Vietnam in this small town called Hoi An, and I was just like, I had a moment where I was just so happy and so satisfied that I had done this for myself, that I stayed, that I didn't cave in. And as a result was seeing the world. And yeah, I wasn't, in love with somebody with me, but I was in love with myself. And that sounds really, there's a cliche of like, oh, they're so in love with themselves. But it really, I really had to step back and applaud. And I just came back from a vacation where I traveled the Great Barrier Reef by myself, and I went scuba diving for the first time. I was terrified, like you're basically relying on a thing to breathe underwater. And it took the encouragement of everybody on the boat. Everybody had to encourage me to do it because I was just going to snorkel. And I'm so glad I did it, that I made it safe for myself. I found somebody else in the boat who was also fairly new to it and was going to do it with me. And I was just so happy that I was this brave person, that I was so terrified. I can't even believe that 10 years ago, I wanted a man to come save me and, be the one to travel with me, because there's no way I could have done it alone. Like, that's so insane to me. So I'm very happy to have this sort of independence. I'm happy that I don't have to answer to anybody, that even my parents who tell me not to do it, like now they're much more encouraging. I went to Uganda by myself and walked into a room with a bunch of local men, which sounds like a horrible idea, right? And I made a rap album, so it's like, so after all that happened, I was just like, wow. I mean, this is not to say don't practice caution or don't be street smart, but there are certain situations where I had pretty good gut checks and was really happy that I was, there's a lot of awful things that could possibly happen, but there's a lot more great things that could possibly happen. And if you're willing to be brave, most of the time the great things will happen. So anyway, so that's that. I'm just a lot happier that I was able to find it without being codependent on some idiot guy.
Awesome. And I love that story, and it's true. I mean, we've been programmed to find a man. That's like our life's purpose.
This is the stupidest advice. Like, I know. Please set the bar higher.
So,
oh my God. Like we could have a whole podcast about how stupid it is that a guy, or whatever partner, it doesn't have to be a male partner, but most of the time the narrative we're taught is it's a male partner that's going to rescue you, save you, make your life so happy. And then I want to puke at most weddings because I feel like, like it's like the same fairy tale. And it's like, no, you're happier maybe if you found the right person, but have you actually looked in the mirror and said, I love you, I commit to you? So when I turned 30, like my parents had me when they were 30 and my grandparents had my parents at 30, right? So like it felt like, oh no, I'm going to like fall off a cliff. I'm not married with a baby. Oh God. It's hard to not feel that anxiety. And so I decided to have a wedding where I married myself. And it was at an Ethiopian restaurant, which is where nobody tends to get married. And I had an officiant, I had a bouquet, I had a wedding dress, and I looked into a mirror and I had to repeat these vows. I commit, Kristina Wong, to loving you, Kristina Wong. It was deep. It was really, it was crazy and hilarious, but it was really deep and I was crying, I don't know that many women actually are able to say to themselves, I love you. I commit to loving you forever. I will not go to bed angry. I will be so good to you. That's so hard. And yet we throw our lives away to some idiot alcoholic, abusive butthead. Like, I mean, I'm just projecting on a lot of marriages I've seen my friends go into. I've also seen friends marry really great feminist men. But anyway, so I don't know, that was really deep. And I fight with my wife all the time. I get mad at her all the time. I'm hard on her all the time. And then I have to step back and remember, wait, you committed publicly to not be an asshole to your wife, to yourself, basically, right? To myself.
I love it. And, it's great that you are so, you have enough confidence in yourself to love yourself and be okay with everything you have, because that's, the most important thing is to love yourself, flaws and all. Even if you get mad at yourself, even if you tell yourself, you're such an idiot, why'd you do this? And you're like, wait, I love you. Don't worry about it. It's all good. It's not the end of the world.
Well, it's like all the things I wanted. Did I want like a partner to like take me on a vacation or buy me nice things or tell me I'm pretty? I can tell myself that. I don't have to be chained to some dum-dum. So, and the more you love you, like it improves the quality of people you keep in your life, right? Because people love confident people. And I mean, there are people who come to you if you have low self-esteem, and they tend to be energy vampires who need you to validate them in ways they can't validate themselves. And this is, I've had a lot of shedding of people and a lot of acquisition. That's what happens. Your community shift, I guess, throughout a woman's lifetime. And it's definitely happened to me. And it's sometimes painful, but it's sometimes for the better, so I can grow.
Totally. I totally agree with that. So thanks for all that. And Kristina, if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with? Absolutely.
You can go to my main site, which is Kristina with a K, KristinaWong.com. And you can also follow me at Ms. Kristina Wong that's MS Kristina Wong on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, facebook.com/I love Kristina Wong. So I make everyone love me when they type in that URL.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you also want to connect with Kristina, you can also head on over to thetowofselfconfidence.com and search for Kristina's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I really want to thank Kristina, for taking the time to share her journey and story with us. So thank you so much, Kristina.
Thank you, Sheena.
No problem. It was fun and an awesome time, talking to you. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence, and we'll catch you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. Visit our website at thetowofselfconfidence.com to check out cool resources, blog articles, show recaps, and so much more. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.